Assalamu alaikum. I'm Nazmul Haque. Thank you, sir, for giving me an opportunity to present on international economics. International economics refers to a study of international forces that influence the domestic conditions of an economy and shape the economic relationship between the countries. There are three factors for international economy. One is production, another is trade, and last one is investment. International economics deals basically with the economic principles which govern the exchange of goods and services between two countries or the nations or between their residents and with a special policy problem which arise in view of this. International economic integration is concerned with the discriminatory removal of all trade impediments between the participating nations and with the establishment of certain elements of cooperation and coordination between them. International economic integration happens to reduce the cost of trade, to improve the ability of goods and services, to increase the consumer purchasing power in member nations' market expansion, and for technology sharing, and for cross-border investment. There are two branches of international economics. One is international trade and another is international finance. Buying and selling goods and services from one country to another is called the international trade. The purchase of goods and services from abroad that leads to an outflow of currency from one country is called the import. And the sale of the goods and services to buyers from other countries leading an inflow of currency to home country is called the export. Different factors in endowments means some countries can produce goods and services more efficiently than others. Specialization is therefore possible. There are two advantages of specialization and trade. One is absolute advantage, where one country can produce goods with the fewer resources than other, and another is comparative advantage, where one country can produce goods at a lower opportunity cost. It sacrifices the less resources in the production. And if we see the Russia and Scotland's comparative advantage, a unit of labor in Russia can produce either 10 barrels of oil per period or 5 liters of whiskey. On the other hand, a unit of labor in Scotland can produce either 20 barrels of oil or 40 liters of whiskey. A unit of labor in each country can produce either oil or whiskey. A unit of labor in Russia can produce either 10 barrels of oil per period or 50 liters of whiskey. Unit of labor in Scotland can produce either 20 barrels of oil or 40 liters of whiskey. And comparative advantage. If we see the whole scenario, we can see that in Russia, oil can be produced cheaper than in Scotland, where Russia only sacrifices 1 liter of whiskey to produce the 2 extra barrels of oil, whereas Scotland would have to sacrifice the 2 liters of whiskey to produce 1 barrel of oil. There can be gains from trade if each country specializes in the production of the product in which it has the lower of opportunity cost. Russia should produce oil and Scotland should produce whiskey. From our book example, there was example of Germany and the banana production. In this scenario, if you see that the banana Germany is not have a good condition to produce the banana, whereas the India has the most production of a banana, and China is the second largest country to produce the banana. So Germany should not invest in banana production, otherwise it will lose in this sector, and it will not have the comparative advantage. Germany have the comparative advantages in producing the cars and technology-based elements. The terms of trade looks at the relationship between the price received from the export and the amount of imports we are able to buy with that money. And the formula of terms of trade is equal to the average price of export divided by the average price of import. The balance of payment. There are two types of balance of payment. One is the current account and another is the capital account. Current account payments included the net current transits and balance of trade and net income from abroad. And the capital account included the foreign current investment portfolio and the other investment and the reserve account. Exchange rate is the most important thing for the foreign trade. The rate at which one currency can be exchanged for another is called the exchange rate. Suppose US dollar exchange rate is $1 equal to 1.9 Taga, or 1 euro is equals to 150 taka. This is called the exchange rate, and the exchange rate should be fixed in the international trade. There are some determinants of exchange rates. Exchange rates are determined by the demand for and the supply currencies on the foreign exchange market, and the demand and supply currencies in return determined by the relative interest rates, the demand for export, the demand for import, investment opportunities, etc. For exchange rate, the currency depreciation and currency appreciation happen. And the depreciation advantage is goods can be cheaper, reduce the competition, increase the foreign tourism capital, more attractive good for exporter. And the advantage for appreciation is foreign goods uh, less costly, pricing competition overseas, travel cheaper, overseas expansion easier, and it is good for importer, whereas the depreciation is good for the exporter. Because of depreciation, inflation happen, foreign goods more costly, overseas travel costs more, overseas expansion become more, and the amount of import is decreases. On the other hand, for appreciation, amount of export is decreases, and goods become the more expensive, and the firms must reduce the cost. Exchange rate. There are three type of exchange rate. One is floating exchange rate, which is determined only by the demand and supply of the currency, and no government intervention here. Fixed exchange rate, the value of a currency fixed in relation to an anchor currency, not allowed to fluctuate. And dirty floating or managed exchange rate influenced by government via central bank around a preferred rate. International trade agreement. International trade agreement is legal contract between or amongst nations who voluntarily agree to conduct business affairs in each other country based on the terms set out in the agreement. There are common terms outlined in the agreement, which is include the reducing tariff and custom duties, when and why people will be able to work across the international borders, what qualifications one will need to work in another country, how business trade secrets will be protected. Actually, they made all the conditions and terms and conditions. There are a few international trade agreements. The most common is CAN, Andean Community of Nations. It is formally known as the Andean Group and the Andean Parliament, and the most recently as the Andean Common Market, established in the 26th May in 1969, and aim to promote harmonious development through the economic integration. There are 5 member countries of CANS: Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela. And EFTA is called the European Trade Association. It is established in January 1960. It's the aim to promote the expansion of the free trade. There are 4 members: Iceland, the Norway, Switzerland, and the Liechtenstein. NAFTA. NAFTA is one of the most popular international trade agreement, which means the North American Free Trade Agreement, established in the 17th December of 1992. There are 3 members: Canada, Mexico, and the US. CARICOM, Caribbean Community, and the Common Market, established in the 4th July in 1973, which aim is to promote the economic integration and development, especially among the less developed countries. There are 15 members. 15 members in this CARICOM: Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Dominica, etc. The advantage of international trade: because of international trade, optimal use of natural resource happen, and all types of good become available because of international trade, and one country can export the goods, another country can import the good, and specialization is happen. Advantages of the large scale of production become more larger, price become stable, and it also increase the efficiency. Development of the transport and communication also happens for the international trade. International cooperation and understanding can be happened by the international trade, and because of international trade, every company or every country has the ability to face the natural calamities, because they always think about one another. If one country face any losses, another country will be affected. And there are some disadvantages of international trade impediment in the development of home industries. Economic dependence, political dependence, misutilization of natural resource can be happened. And the large number of imported group goods can be harmful for a country, and world wars can be happen because of the international trade, because weapons can be sold for one country to another country, and most of the time for making the international trade, wars began. And international economic is growing in importance as a field of study because of the rapid integration of international economic markets. However, many of these same business also have new opportunities to expand their markets by selling to a multitude of consumers in other countries. And again, thank you, sir, for giving me an opportunity to serve this section as a class representative. It was a wonderful session with me. Thanks for making our study more interesting. Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum.